Hi, guys. Welcome to our show. Today, we are talking about five main things to decide before you go to study abroad, especially in Europe and America. Hi, I'm Kunal here, and I am living currently in France. I have did my PhD in France and my master's in Europe. And now I'll give it to you, Aditya.
Hello everyone, welcome to our show. And my name is Aditya, and I have been in US for almost 11 years now. And I did my masters at NYU over here. And I know you guys have a lot of questions, so we will try to go over that today. So, Kunal, I remember when we were actually deciding on the college and course to go to, like the main important question is like which college and which course to decide.
Correct.
So for you in Europe, how did you do that? Like, where did you find the information?
Yeah, very good question, Aditya. So initially, when I was searching during my time, and it was 2011, if you remember, right, our time.
Yeah,
And
I
during
know, I
our
know.
time, things have changed a lot. But at that time, we were looking at some portals like Edulix. I remember it's still available in India, and there was some special portal for European education, which was mastersportal.com. And of course there were other material available. And what about you? What were you doing during for the search in America?
Yeah, same here. I was looking at Edulix. Edulix was one of the go-to platform for me, and also for ranking, I used to look at US News.
Okay.
That is really good for US universities.
Okay.
So apart from that, one of the questions which come in students' mind is about the ranking.
Yeah.
So should they go for the best ranking institute, or like does it matter that much? So Kunal, what do you think about that?
Well, it's a very good question, Aditya. Actually, ranking matters, but it's not the everything, right? It also depends on your pocket. I mean, how much you are financially stable, where you want to study, your scores. So I will not. I will not say that ranking doesn't matters, but ranking is not everything. And in that sense, it's the process of the education that you get in abroad that matters and that enriches you. This is my point of view. What about you?
So I think ranking is just part of the process. It's not the whole. It's not the only criteria. For me,
Mhm.
it was like that. And personally, I think the experience of coming out, learning from the education abroad, and
I
meeting
agree.
new
Hmm.
people,
Hmm.
and the whole process enriches you, like you said.
Correct. I agree. I
So
have the
yeah,
same. I think we're on the same point, and that's why.
yeah,
And also our history shows that it's not the
yeah,
most important part to be in the best college. I agree.
yeah.
So going to the next question, maybe we can think about, as I pointed out, it's about finances, right? It's about fees and money. So Aditya, in your perspective, what tools or what can a student do to manage their idea that how much they're gonna spend?
Yeah, so I think firstly, studying abroad, especially in US, is kind of expensive.
Yeah,
So in that case, it is important to break down like what kind of expenses there are. You start with the application itself. So the application itself cost you like the exams, the
yeah,
application,
yes. It was expensive. I
and that
remember.
is true for Europe also, right?
Yeah, it could be GRE, it could be GMAT, it could be
Yeah.
applications. I agree with you. It's a lot of expensive stuff. And what about the scholarships in America?
So scholarships in US universities depend upon your research assistant, teaching assistant. If you are coming for PhD, you get like a full scholarship in the form of as a research assistant. For
Mm-hmm.
masters, it depends upon the universities.
Mm-hmm.
There are different type of universities in US, state
Mm-hmm.
universities and
Correct. Exactly.
public-private
Mm-hmm.
universities. So the chances of getting a scholarship in a state university and is slightly
It's
more.
hard. Okay. Okay. Good to know.
Is slightly more than the private universities. And I know, like in Europe, mostly the governments fund the education in some of the countries. Is that true?
Actually, you are right. Let's say, for example, in Germany, you pay around 500 euros, especially for an international course, and it's very minimal. Initially, also, I remember during our times in 2011, Sweden was also very cheap. to study. Now not, they have put extra fees for non-European students. But in France also, it's overall quite cheap, but things are changing now. And there are more scholarships available. Like in France, you can avail an Eiffel scholarship or Erasmus Mundus scholarships. So that is possible. So we talked about tuition fees, we talked about scholarships, we talked about application cost. What about the part-time jobs and accommodation?
So for part-time jobs in US, you can do on-campus jobs.
Okay.
You can't really work off campus
Okay.
over here.
Okay.
And for accommodations, it really depends upon how you want to stay. Most of the universities have facilities of dorms, which is
Okay.
like hostels in
I
US.
understand.
And then you can always rent a house outside. So most of the students, like I stayed outside. We with my friends, I rented a place and we stayed over there. How about you, Kunal?
Part-time jobs, I am not very sure. There are people who are doing part-time jobs. I don't think there is a problem. So as per your visas in Europe, you can do part-time job for sure. So I know some people are working in some shops and all that. But during my master's, it was a fully funded scholarship. So we did not, I mean, I personally did not do any part-time job, and neither my colleagues in my course. And about accommodation, we were living mostly on campus because we were exchange students in most of the universities. So it was okay. But in Europe, you can live abroad, I mean, outside or in the campus. The difference is not like in US that the charges are very high. It really depends. So there
And
are
it
many
depends upon
possibilities.
and it depends upon the city also.
Yes.
So I guess
Yes.
in the Europe also it's
Yes,
like
it's
that.
same
In
in
US
US.
also
Yes.
it's like that. Yeah.
Exactly, because if you let's say live in Paris, there's accommodation is a little bit more expensive, and it's a melting pot, so it's not possible. But if you live in a smaller city somewhere in France, it's more easy. I think same in New York for you.
Yeah. So I stayed in New York, and it is more expensive to stay in like Manhattan, for
Yeah,
example.
of course, it's crazy.
Yeah. So that's why many students depend upon their financial condition. They rent a place outside and then they stay over there.
Okay.
So moving forward, Kunal, apart from accommodation, application, and tuition fees, what all other expenses do you think are important?
I think they should also keep in mind what devices they will buy, about the clothes that they have, or other miscellaneous expenses like insurance cost or mobile phone costs. I mean, it's good to have. What I will suggest is that the students who are going out, they should have an Excel sheet in which they put all the costs possible, and at least they should have around 10%, a bit more money in their budget.
Let's go further and talk about, I think, the hot topic, which is like jobs. So let me tell about first about US.
Yeah.
So in US, it really depends upon the stream you have done your education in. For example, in the STEM, which is science, technology, engineering, mathematics. So in that type of branches, it is comparatively easier to get jobs.
I agree.
And I guess it would be the same in Europe.
Yes, of course.
And also for other streams, it is slightly harder, but it is not impossible. Over here, there are career fairs. You can go over there. It all depends upon how you approach the job. How it is in Europe, Kunal?
I think, as you said, in the STEM cases, it's much more jobs, and it depends. It's very country specific. Like say in Germany, you have a really lot of jobs in automation, in computer sciences. So in the STEM courses, there are jobs everywhere. But in Europe, you have to count one very important point, which is the language. Because if you go and study in Germany, you should be at least I mean, they will be okay for you if you are just a beginner in German, which is A1 or A2, but with time they will expect you to be at least B1, B2 level. And of course, when you are in a corporate situation, you should be C1, C2 level. The better language you know, the better it is. So your growth, your job perspectives will change with the language issues. And same in France, or same in all the countries. I mean, initially it is okay, but if you have to live in the country for a long term, you need to think about the language.
And one other thing which comes as a part of the job, about the work authorization, which is available for jobs. So in US, once you graduate, you have 1 year of work authorization. where you can work across US.
Correct.
For STEM courses, you can increase that authorization by another 24 months. So totally 36 months.
That's the OPT, right? You're talking about?
Yeah, that is the OPT. It's called as
Hmm.
optional practical training. Is there something like that in Europe, Kunal?
So again, it is a little bit country specific here. So
Mhm.
there are countries like in Europe, like in France, and I remember Holland, that they are giving you a job search visa
Mhm.
after your master's finishes. So you can search your job for a year or so. And in the meanwhile, in that year, you have to find a job. But normally, most of the students coming from abroad, they try to find their job before finishing their master's.
Yeah.
That's the normal situation.
Mhm.
But of course, there are some job search conditions, visas, not like US, not the OPT, because in OPT you can work, but something similar. Yeah.
So one of the things I think which is important while studying in Europe is about the
Mhm.
language. And
Yes, very
I think we
important.
went over it, but like the language and cultural, different countries have like different
Correct.
kind
I
of
agree.
culture and
Mm.
language. How is the experience of that in Europe?
I mean, very good point, Aditya. I think this is the most important point: cultural exposure and languages, especially in Europe. I mean, I understand for America because there is a little bit there's a similarity in the languages, so you don't have the same issues.
Yeah. Yeah.
For in let's say for in my case, I was lucky to study in 4 countries actually.
Yeah,
After my,
that's
I
good.
mean, so I did my masters in Germany, Greece, and Holland, and then I
Mm.
did my PhD in France. So
Mhm.
the cultural exposure is phenomenal. I mean, it's a different mentality of people in different countries, and you get that exposure. You get to visit the different places, and
Mhm.
also the language is very a bit important. So during my masters, I could not learn much languages because I was for a short period of time.
Focused.
Yes, it
Yeah.
was not focused. But during my PhD, now living in France, I have a bit more French experience. I speak a
Mhm.
bit of French. I have to work in sometime in French projects, so that's interesting.
And Kunal, I think there is a lot to learn, right? In the case of Europe, not just the language, but there is like lot of diversity
You are
in
right.
that
You are right.
perspective.
You are totally right, Aditya. I mean, the diversity factor is very important in Europe because you meet a lot of people from different cultures, and as now we are all working in international companies, it's
Yeah.
very important to have that diversity factor because you learn the diversity. For me, studying in Europe in different cultures give me diversity, and I'm sure for you studying in New York and now living in California and your education also gave you diversity there also.
Yeah, in US, mostly the students are from throughout the globe. The students are from India, then China, and when you learn with all these students, you learn to appreciate the thought process of many other
Different
religions and
people,
many other
exactly.
cultures. Yeah, different
Exactly,
people,
exactly, exactly.
and so that is really important as a part of studying abroad
Learning
in general.
experience, the entire
Yeah,
process of,
in the
yes,
entire
I
process,
agree.
the learning experience.
I agree. So Aditya, now we are going towards the end of our question answers, and the last and most important question coming to us is about adaptation, about homesickness and cultural shock also, right? We talk a lot about culture and diversity. So what happened, what was your experience, and if you can share something humorous with us during your time in America?
So when I came to US, tipping was one of the
Okay.
things which
Okay.
I thought like is kind of different. In India, we used to tip, but
Yes.
the first time I came over here, I had to tip my taxi driver who dropped me from the airport, and that was I was not even sure that I have to tip that guy.
Yeah, exactly.
So yeah, so that was something different. But when you come over here, you learn with
uh,
time, and then try to you start appreciating it.
okay.
And
And tipping is
as
a
far
very
as
important part of the culture, if I understand. In
yeah,
America,
tipping is something which is important
yes, okay.
over here
Especially in
in
the
US.
in the service sectors. I mean, services. When you say food, travel, it's important to tip people, right?
Yeah,
Yeah.
it's not
Mhm.
just it's in India people do tip.
Yes,
I
we do
remember
tip.
we used to tip in
Yeah.
restaurants and when we go for like food services, but over here that is more extent, and it is integrated into the application itself. Like
Yes.
Uber has that,
Uber.
and
I
then
have seen that. Yes.
which is kind of different
Different.
from
Yeah.
how it was in India. And
And
uh,
what about homesickness? Did you feel homesickness?
Yeah, so for me, and I know we both stayed
Both
out
of
of
us,
home.
yes, yes,
Yeah, we both
somehow.
stayed out of home for quite long time. So it was more for me. It was more like India sickness,
Yeah,
if
I
I
agree
use
with
that
you.
term.
I agree with you. I think there are two type of people on the same point as you said. One who directly come from their own city, their own house to study abroad, and there are people
Yeah,
like you and me and other of our colleagues or and friends who studied their some part in a boarding school or in a university outside their main city. So for them, it's not the homesickness of the I mean their house, but it's the country sickness, as you said very nicely.
yeah, yeah.
And yeah,
You sometimes miss the food. You miss the festivals.
yeah.
Yeah, you miss the
I mean, even
festivals. You
if you have
miss
the
your
same fest, I mean, I'm sure they
yeah.
have same festival
The
celebrations
vibe
in
is
New York.
different.
Exactly, the vibe is
The
different.
vibe is different.
Yes, I think the same in Paris because I mean there is a multicultural experience, but it's not the same level of exposure of the vibes
Yeah.
we have, and
So
I
those are
think
the times you miss.
exactly.
Uh,
And for me
and
also it was a little bit interesting experience, especially
yeah.
in Europe when we went to, I mean in France when we went to some friend's birthday party. So in India we pay when we invite you for our birthday, but in France and normally the friends pay for you and pay for themselves. So
That's
it's
good.
very interesting, different part of
I
system.
like that. As
Yeah.
a student, I would have loved that.
Yes, yes, we all would have loved that. So that is interesting. So Aditya, I would like to ask you one more question. I mean, we have answered the five questions for now at least, but because now it's a very specific time of COVID. Yeah? So what do you think students should be doing now? Because they must have some dilemma that should they
Yeah, 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 yeah.
continue, should they stay in their continuing staying in their own country? Should they go abroad? I mean, what would you have done, or what would have done, or what would we say now to people seeing all the situation? So, what do you think?
Yeah, I think situation surely have changed because of the
Mm.
COVID, and the education will change with time. But I think if you really want to study abroad, and if there is nothing else at this point of time which you are focusing on,
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
then you should surely come to US and go ahead with the. I know the job situation in
Mm-hmm.
US is kind of feeble at this point of time, but the things will improve in the
Yeah,
another
yeah,
couple
yeah.
of years.
I
So
agree with you.
uh,
So, I mean, I
and
agree with your point. If you have nothing in a sense, if you're not into a job, and if the main important part for you is to continue a study, then
yeah,
yes, why not? Give it a shot.
yeah,
Come here. But I will say, if you are, I mean, if you already are in a job, you want to go to increase your educational skills for some time, you can maybe defer it if it is
yeah,
possible. I don't
yeah,
know. Maybe in America, sometime it's possible, right, to defer
yeah, you
your.
can. Yeah, you can defer your admission. That is one of the possibilities. These days the universities are saying you do 1 year of
Yeah,
education remotely, and then in the
remotely.
next year
Yes.
you can come. So that is also a possibility.
And I think Aditya, we should close this topic in this video, and we will make another proper full
Continue with that.
video.
Yes,
Yeah.
we
So
should.
I think for our viewers, we'll make a full video, a short but full video about this remote education and about COVID-19 situation for studying abroad.
Yeah, things to keep in
And
mind
yes, things to
before
keep in mind. So I think this video is mostly about those five main points that we have discussed, and we will be adding the text to this video in the sections below in the
in the
YouTube,
description. Yeah.
in the description in the YouTube, so that you can also read it. And please let us know if you have some special question in your mind, and if you would like us to make some special video on some special topic uh, with respect to education abroad in Europe and America, and we'll be happy to do that. Yeah.
Thank you guys,
And
and
bye from
like
our
and
side.
subscribe.
Like and
Thank you.
subscribe,
Bye.
as they say. Bye. Take care.
Bye.